Hey guys, Tyler here, and this is the Garage Warrior podcast and videocast. And I'm super excited today to have on the call my good friend Adam Steer. How's it going today, Adam?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right, brother. How's the weather up there in the cold, icy north?
Shitty as usual.
Oh man. So Adam's a good. Sorry, go ahead.
We got an ice storm coming tomorrow.
You got an
That'll
ice
be
storm
fun.
coming tomorrow. Well, it's a perfect time to get outside and do some cold weather therapy and stuff like that. You know.
Yeah, I don't do that.
No, not so much.
I hide away and I go south as often as possible.
That's good, man. Well, Adam and I are good friends. Adam is the silent partner behind a project you guys might be familiar with, the CT50 project. And he's actually an extremely knowledgeable guy, especially in the fields of bodyweight training. And we're going to be talking a lot about bodyweight training today. But before we dig into that, Adam, you know, for the people who don't know who you are, can you give us kind of a 50,000-mile view? Like, who are you and what are you hoping to teach the world?
Sure. Okay, so despite the fact that I live in Canada and hate the cold, I was actually in the ski industry for 20 years, which is probably why I hate the cold, because I basically spent 20 winters in a row outside every day, all day long, no matter how cold or snowy or rainy or freezing rain or whatever was going on. So that's kind of how I got started professionally in the field of coaching and physical movement, and that led to fitness as well. The way I started training people actually was training ski athletes for their off-season fitness. I'd always been interested in strength, conditioning, fat loss, all that kind of stuff, right from a very early age. When I was a young teenager, my grandfather bought me a membership to his gym, and his words were to keep me out of trouble. I don't know what exactly was happening there, what he thought I was doing. I don't think I was nearly as bad as what he thought, but that kind of sparked off my lifelong passion for training. I used to read, like, every month I'd buy all the magazines, Muscle and Fitness and Men's Health and all that stuff, and I'd just devour those. And then it just started to become more and more professional. So I started buying, instead of Muscle and Fitness, I started buying textbooks and things like that and reading about it. And I was even going to go, take my bachelor's in phys ed. And everyone I knew convinced me out of that. They're like, you're never going to work in that industry, so do something sensible. So I did like 2 years of a degree in history and then quit because I ended up working full-time in health and fitness and sports, which is, what I thought I was going to do. So I should have just followed my own intuition on that one and done what I loved. So anyway, through skiing, I started coaching athletes, and then, I loved it so much that I started coaching just regular folks on the side, mostly fat loss training. Kept training for myself. When the cold really got too much for me, I got out of skiing and moved full-time into personal training. That was probably about 6-7 years ago. And then as I started doing more and more personal training and started getting tired of getting up at 5 in the morning, started taking some of the stuff that I was doing with my clients, turning those into ebooks, video courses, things like that, and realized that I could reach a lot more people on the internet doing that. So I did a mix of selling those kind of programs on the internet and training live clients for a few years, and then that kind of transitioned into doing more and more on the internet. And now pretty much full-time on the internet. I still train a few friends and family because I love it, but mostly just sharing my stuff via ebooks and online videos and things like that.
Well, that's a great little 50,000-mile view. And Adam's being modest. He's actually gone through a lot of training. When you actually get talking with him, he's one of the sharper guys in the fitness. Not to puff your head up in the beginning of this conversation, but we've just had a lot of good conversations before, so I know how intelligent you are when it comes to program design and movement and so on and so forth.
Well, I mean, I've done a lot of, just personal informal research, but I've taken a lot of courses and certifications and things like that too, just because that's what I'm passionate about. So
Yeah.
and the other thing I should probably mention, I didn't really weave it into my story, is I kind of screwed myself up at one point as well, which it kind of helped me get even smarter about what I do, because there was a time when I looked pretty good, but I mean, I couldn't raise my arm over my head. If I sat on the floor, I couldn't sit with my back upright. I had to put my hands behind me to hold myself up. I was just so stiff and sore and banged up from my training that I actually had to go and look for stuff to fix myself. So I got into a lot of like the mobility stuff that I'm kind of known for now. I'm probably more mobile and flexible than pretty much any other 42, almost 43-year-old that I know. And even in the fitness industry, probably the only guy that's even close to me is you, and you got that screwed up knee, so I can kick your ass anyway. So yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of the mobility stuff, and that's how I got interested in bodyweight training, because I mean, I couldn't bench press for like 4 years straight. I didn't touch a bench press. I couldn't bench press. There's too much pain in my shoulder. So I got really good at doing other stuff to get around that.
Yeah, that's a really good backstory, because like a lot of people get in that same mess where they focus on one aspect of fitness. So like, I want to build muscle, so I'm going to do nothing but strength training all day long, and they neglect like mobility or flexibility work, or even just good movement patterns in favor of lifting more weight so they can build more muscle.
Yeah.
What do you think is like the foundation? Like, I'm interested to see like what you think is the foundation. If you were to have somebody come to you, they've never done any exercise before, do you work on strength? Do you work on coordination? Do you work on mobility? Like, what's the first thing you go to?
I would say movement quality with the maximum load you can use.
Right.
So I really believe in using the highest workload you can possibly handle, but it has to be good quality movement. Can't remember. I think it was Eric Cressy or somebody like that who said, any imperfections you have in your movement under load are just going to be reinforced. So basically, the more load you put on a mistake, the better you get at making the same mistake over and over again. So yeah, I work on the movement quality, and then I add load as much as possible, as soon as possible, when I've got the quality down.
Yeah. So like, if you were to train the 25-year-old version of Adam, what would you change about your workout program?
Yeah, just like technique.
Just tons of technique.
Yeah, I could lift a lot of weight. I did it however I wanted. I had no idea how to lift well.
Right.
And yeah, I would have saved myself a lot of pain if I had learned to lift well, and if I had supplemented that with the mobility work that I do today, or even that I did in the past that still serves me today. I actually do nowadays maybe 10% of the mobility work that I was doing, say 6-7 years ago, when I was really still in the full swing of bringing myself back up to 100% movement capacity. But even with that 10% that I do now, I maintain 100% of the movement quality and mobility that I had 5-6 years ago. So once you build it up, it really doesn't take that much to keep it. The problem is most people ignore it for so many years that they end up like, the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz, and by that time, they're screwed, because they want to lift big, like you were saying. Guys want to lift big, women want to train hard to lose weight, and they're training with these faulty movement patterns, with these tight muscles, with like this wound up spring that's just ready to snap at any moment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm interested, like, what's your thoughts on, training improper movement patterns to develop the skill of being in improper movement patterns? Does that make sense? People doing lighter round back deadlifts to build their resilience to round back postures. Do you think that's just a kind of a waste of time in a lot of ways, or do you think that there's actually some merit to that?
It's not something that I would recommend personally. You know, any time you spend training a faulty movement pattern is going to increase the chances that you're going to revert to that movement
You're
pattern,
gonna use it, yeah.
you know, when it counts.
Right.
So, you know, like you bend over to grab something heavy out of your car, you've been training round back deadlifts. There's more chance that you're going to revert to that faulty movement pattern
Sure.
when there's a chance that you could throw at your back doing that. So I mean, I would always promote proper movement patterns whenever you can. And I guess for me too, that comes back to training athletes. When, you know, I would train athletes off the hill, I would train them in optimal movement patterns so that when they got back on skis, chances are they would move from a position of strength rather than a position of weakness or a position of faulty mechanics.
Yeah, that's a good point. What about, you know, I've had a lot of conversations with people about the bridge in particular, right? Because there's a lot of people talking about how the bridge is bad for your spine because you're going into extension. Anytime you extend and flex a spine, you're, you know, degenerating your discs and stuff. But I know that you're into yoga, you're into mobility and movement patterns. I'm personally a huge fan of the bridge. I'm wondering kind of what your take is on the bridge. Do you think that people should be working on it? Do you think that there is a downside to it, or what's your thoughts?